I never thought I'd be the guy to own a Tesla. I'm not a car guy. I don't follow auto blogs or obsess over 0 to 60 stats. I like things that work. Clean, reliable, quiet. That's what drew me to the Model 3 Performance, used 2021. I did my homework, read forums, watched a ton of YouTube reviews. It made sense, it felt solid. I didn't buy it to show off. Hell, I barely post on Instagram, but that car changed everything. Not because of what it could do, but because of what happened just days after I brought it home. It was a Tuesday night. I remember because I just wrapped up a brutal deadline at work. I'm a graphic designer, freelance, and all I wanted was to crash at my girlfriend's place. Her name's Hannah. She lives in this quiet, tucked away neighborhood about 20 minutes from mine, out past the strip malls and into the older part of town. It's one of those places where the streetlights are dim and the sidewalks crack with weeds growing up through them. Peaceful, or at least it used to be. It was around 10:30 p.m. The streets were nearly empty, a breeze moving the trees like something out of a David Lynch film. I parked on the curb, just under the yellowed glow of a flickering street lamp. The air had that heavy post-rain chill. Not cold exactly, but sharp enough to make you wish you'd brought a jacket. I shut the door, the soft electronic click of the Tesla's lock echoing in the quiet. That's when I saw them. A couple, maybe late 30s or early 40s, walking a big, wiry-haired mutt that looked part wolf, part nightmare. They were moving slow, not tired slow, deliberate, like they were inspecting something. The guy wore a threadbare hoodie and jeans that sagged around his boots. The woman had a rat's nest of blonde curls and a coat too big for her shoulders. They looked tense, and then they stopped. Their eyes locked on me, not a passing glance, not a neighborly nod. No, they stared. The woman's lip curled like she'd just smelled garbage, and the guy, his expression was pure contempt. Smug, angry, predatory. I've always been a little socially awkward. Small talk drains me. Eye contact feels like a power struggle. So I gave a quick, awkward wave, tried to pass it off like nothing was wrong. But something was wrong. The air changed. The dog growled low in its throat, hackles rising. I turned to walk toward Hannah's door, heart thudding a little faster. Then I heard it. "Oh, you drive a Tesla?" the man scoffed. "That's a made-up car." His tone wasn't joking. It was venom, like I'd personally offended him just by existing. I stopped but didn't turn around. Just hit the lock on the key fob again, more for reassurance than anything. The lights blinked. Beep, beep. I took a step forward, then his hand clamped around my arm. It wasn't casual. It was forceful, hard enough to jolt me. The dog exploded into barking, yanking at the leash like it wanted to tear my face off. The woman stood there silent, just watching, her face unreadable. "Hey," he said, his voice snapping like a whip. "I'm talking to you." I don't want any trouble, man," I muttered, keeping my voice level. "I'm just going inside." But he wasn't hearing it. His eyes were locked on mine, wild. There was something broken behind them, that kind of unpredictable instability you only read about in police reports. Then his hand slipped to his waistband. My blood turned to ice. He pulled a knife, a small one on maybe 4 inches, but the blade caught the light like a signal flare. I thought he was going to stab me. My knees almost gave out, but he didn't come at me. He turned, car and fast, and stalked over to my car. "No, hey, wait," I cried, taking a step, but he was already there. "Shh!" He slashed the front tire in a clean, practiced motion. The hiss was immediate and like a dying breath. Before I could even move, he slashed the rear tire, then the other side. 4 in total, each slice deliberate, efficient. And then he raised the knife again and dragged it down the side of the car. The sound was unbearable, metal screaming under blade. Deep, ugly gouges carved through the midnight blue paint. He stepped back, breathing, heavy, chest heaving. And then he grinned. A lunatic's grin. No joy in it, just destruction. "You and anyone who supports that musk prick." He spat on the ground. "You deserve this." They turned and walked off, dog still barking like a demon. No rush, no fear, just gone. I stood there, frozen, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear. My legs finally moved. I ran up Hannah's steps and pounded on the door like my life depended on it. She opened it in pajamas, confused, until she saw my face. What happened? I could barely get the words out. Someone attacked my car with a knife. He had a knife. He grabbed me. I think he lives down the street. He said something about Elon Musk. She pulled me inside and locked the door. Jesus, you're shaking. We called the police. An officer showed up 20 minutes later, took my statement, walked the street. They knew the couple. Everyone did. Kenny and Marla, the cop muttered, as if the names tasted sour. Been trouble since they moved in. We've had complaints, noise, threats, paranoia stuff. Turns out they'd gone off the grid years ago. Survivalist types, anti-tech, anti-government, anti-pretty much everything. Kenny once threw a brick through a neighbor's Wi-Fi router box because he said it was brainwashing their kid. Marla had been arrested twice for harassing drivers with EVs. They were infamous on the local subreddit. But this was a step too far. The damage to the car was over $6,000. Insurance covered most of it, but the feeling, that crawling, skin-prickling dread, stayed with me. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment he grabbed my away arm, the knife, that smile. For weeks, I jumped every time someone passed me on the street. I stopped driving to Hannah's. I started carrying pepper spray. I even considered selling the car. Eventually, the charges stuck. Felony vandalism, misdemeanor assault. Kenny got 18 months. Marla got probation and mandatory counseling. But that didn't change what I felt every time I saw my reflection. In the Tesla's new paint job, it wasn't just about the car. It was about how quickly things could turn, how violence could find you for no reason at all, how a Tuesday night could twist into a nightmare just because you parked on the wrong street. People love to talk about the future, about progress, innovation, technology that makes life better. But nobody talks about what happens when progress meets paranoia, when metal and wires become a symbol, when a machine becomes a target. I still drive that car, but I don't feel proud when I do. I feel exposed, watched, marked. I didn't choose this story. It chose me. One quiet night, under a flickering street lamp, I'm not the kind of guy who believes in ghosts. At least I wasn't. The whole thing started because of a TikTok. Someone had taken their Tesla into a cemetery at night and claimed the car's dashboard started detecting people, ghosts, allegedly, wandering among the tombstones. You could see the little gray human-shaped blips appearing and disappearing on the screen, even though there was clearly no one there. The clip blew up overnight, racking up millions of views. I laughed. I figured it was just someone screwing around exaggerating for clout. Maybe they had a friend sneaking around off camera, or maybe it was just a bug in the system. Fast forward a few months. I had just gotten my own Tesla, a Model 3, midnight silver metallic, the whole sleek and quiet package. I'd wanted one for ages, and yeah, I remembered the TikTok. Not because I believed in that paranormal stuff, but because I thought it might be fun to try it out for myself. I figured I'd debunk it. Just a harmless little experiment, right? I live in a small town in Oklahoma. Nothing much happens here. We've got this old cemetery on the edge of town, St. Luke's Rest, a forgotten patch of land with crumbling headstones and rusted gates. People here mostly ignore it. Teenagers use it as a dare spot, but you won't find anyone there past dusk unless they're up to no good. I called up my best friend Jake. "You want to be stupid with me tonight?" I asked, half laughing. Jake's always been game for my dumb ideas, and he didn't need convincing. "Man, if we get haunted by a bunch of digital ghosts, I'm blaming you." That Friday night was warm, sticky even, late July heat that clings to your skin. It was around 10:15 p.m. when we rolled through the cemetery gates. No one else was there, obviously. The metal creaked as the gate swung behind us, but it stayed open. No locks, no signs, just rows of old gravestones bathed in moonlight. We parked, dead center between two rows, under a leaning oak tree with bark peeling off like sunburnt skin. I turned the dash brightness up and leaned back in my seat, watching the display as it outlined the surroundings in digital precision. Trees, curbs, a trash bin on the edge of the road behind us. But no people, no mysterious figures. Jake cracked open a Red Bull and said, "Welp, looks like TikTok lied to us again." We started joking, making ghost noises and daring each other to get out of the car. I remember laughing. Both of us relaxed. Half bored, then Jake stopped mid-laugh. "Yo, what the hell is that?" I looked over. His finger was pointing to the screen. On the display about 30 feet ahead was a humanoid shape. Gray, featureless, like the kind that Tesla shows when it detects a person. Only, there was no one there. I looked up through the windshield and saw nothing but gravestones and grass. No movement, no wind, just silence. But on the screen, the figure was moving, slowly, steadily, toward us. Neither of us spoke. We watched it crawl closer, pixel by pixel, 20 feet, 15, 10, and then it stopped, right in front of the car, inches from the bumper. Jake whispered, "Do you see anything out there?" I shook my head, heart thudding. "No, nothing." I leaned forward, peering into the dark. Still no movement, not even a squirrel. Then our phones rang, at the same time. Both of us. Same unknown number. It was one of those hollow, vibrating rings that makes your stomach twist. We stared at each other, neither of us picking up. I killed the sound on mine and watched Jake do the same. That's when everything changed. The warm night air turned bitter cold. Instant. Like walking into a freezer. I could see my breath fog the windshield. Jake rubbed his arms and muttered, "What the?" The dash started to glitch. Just for a second. The human figure flickered, vanishing, then popping back into place like bad reception. I reached for the gear shift, my hands trembling, ready to get the hell out of there. But then we heard it. A voice, far away at first. Distant, like it was being carried on the wind. It wasn't music. It wasn't English. It was something old. The voice was soft but insistent, whispering in a language neither of us recognized. It didn't come from the speakers. It came from outside the car, from the cemetery. I froze. Jake's eyes were wide, reflecting the blue glow of the dashboard. He mouthed, "Do you hear that?" I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "We're leaving. Now." I threw the car into drive and eased forward, careful not to floor it even though my instinct screamed at me to go full throttle. As we drove past the spot where the figure had stood, I swear the air felt thicker, like we were moving through water. Once we cleared the gates and hit the main road, the cold vanished. The heat slammed back in like a wall. We didn't say a word, all the way back. Jake just kept staring out the window like he expected something to be following us. When we got to my driveway, we sat in the car for a minute, the dash now back to normal, showing nothing but the driveway and a recycling bin. Jake finally broke the silence. "Dude, that wasn't a glitch." I swallowed hard. "I know." He nodded slowly, then got out without another word. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few days, I kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe the car's sensors malfunctioned. Maybe the voice was just the wind whistling through the trees. Maybe someone nearby was messing with us using a Bluetooth signal or some obscure prank tech. But there were two things I couldn't explain. First, the phone calls. When I checked my call log, there was no record of the call. Same with Jake. Nothing. Not even a missed call notification. Just gone. Second, the voice. I couldn't get it out of my head. I started having dreams, nightmares. Really? of standing in the cemetery alone, surrounded by whispers. Sometimes I'd wake up with that same cold feeling in my chest like I'd been dipped in ice water, and sometimes I'd see her. Yeah, her. It started with my dash. Random nights the car would detect a figure again, but not moving, just standing. Always to the left, always when I was driving alone. And then I started seeing her in reflections, not clearly, just a flash in a window or a car mirror. Long black hair, white dress, head slightly tilted like she was listening, like she was waiting. I stopped using the Tesla's full features, turned off the visualizations, switched to manual driving. I even called Tesla's customer support once, asking if there'd been any known glitches with the object recognition system. The rep was polite, but confused. No, sir, the system doesn't detect anything that isn't physically present. That would be a safety hazard. Right. Eventually, I went back to the cemetery. Alone. I don't know what I was hoping to find. Closure, maybe. Or proof that it had all been in my head. I parked in the same spot. Same tree. Same graves. No movement on the dash. No voices. Just silence. I stayed for maybe 10 minutes, then turned to leave, and I saw her in my rearview mirror, standing just behind the car, not moving, just watching. I didn't look back. I drove home. I put the Tesla in the garage. I took the bus the next day, and every day after that. I haven't driven that car in months. Some nights, I still hear her voice. I still see the cold breath rise from my chest even in a warm room. The TikTok, still up. Millions of views. People laugh in the comments, call it fake. Maybe they're right, but I know what I saw, what I heard, what followed me home. Sometimes I think that dashboard did more than just detect movement. It saw something it wasn't supposed to. It was just past midnight when I left the office, the kind of late where even the hum of the city gives up and goes quiet. I was bone tired. That kind of exhaustion that seeps behind your eyes and makes everything blur at the edges. The last file I'd been working on at the firm had taken a toll. Revisions, client calls, a partner breathing down my neck about deadlines. I just wanted to get home, shower off the stress, and maybe sleep for a week. I own a Tesla Model S, secondhand, but meticulously cared for. With its autopilot feature, long nighttime drives felt a bit less like a chore. And that night the highway stretched ahead like a ribbon into nowhere. Empty lanes. No taillights. Just the soft, sterile glow of the dashboard and the distant hush of tires on smooth asphalt. I toggled the autopilot on. The steering wheel twitched gently, aligning the car with the center of the lane. I exhaled, leaned back, and let my eyes unfocus. The hum of the air conditioner, the occasional flicker of a roadside reflector. It all faded into background noise. I wasn't sleeping, not quite, but drifting, caught in that strange space where thought barely forms. Then something shifted, barely noticeable at first. The car started making tiny, jerky corrections. Nothing extreme, just odd. The steering wheel would twitch slightly left, then right, then settle. I leaned forward, watching more closely. Maybe the sensors are acting up. I muttered to myself, tapping the screen. But there was no warning, no alert. The system acted like everything was fine, except it wasn't. I sat up straight. "All right, buddy," I said aloud, like talking to a nervous dog. "Don't be weird." The car slowed, not a soft deceleration, but abrupt, like hitting an invisible wall. My heart punched my ribs. I scanned the road. Nothing. No obstacles. No animals. Not even a pothole. Instinctively, I reached for the wheel. It didn't move. Not an inch. What the hell? I jiggled the wheel harder, then hit the brake pedal. Nothing. It was like pressing down on concrete. That's when the dashboard flickered. Not a smooth transition, but a stuttering glitch like static jumping across a TV screen. Emergency mode engaged. The words popped up in bold red, then disappeared. replaced by something else. Turn around. A voice came next. Robotic, but not the default Tesla voice. This one was wrong. It was flatter, grainier. The kind of voice that sounds like it's trying to mimic a human but never heard one properly. Turn around, it repeated. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. My pulse hammered in my throat. Nope, 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 I whispered, panic rising like bile. I mashed the brake again, harder. Still nothing. The car began to accelerate. Slowly. Too slow to be fleeing. Too fast to be safe. I gripped the steering wheel, pulling hard to the left, like that would magically override whatever the hell was happening. But the wheel held firm, cold and still beneath my hands. Manual override, I gasped, slapping at the touchscreen, stabbing every available icon, anything that might give me control. Nothing worked. I yelled, I swore, I pleaded, but the car didn't care, it just kept moving. Then silence. The voice stopped. The road stretched ahead, endless and black. I tried the door handle, locked, tried the windows, dead. It felt less like a vehicle now and more like a coffin, one on wheels, sure, but still a sealed box I had no say in. Minutes passed, maybe 5, maybe 10. It was impossible to tell. Then, as suddenly as it all began, it ended. The car slowed to a gentle stop on the shoulder. The dashboard returned to its normal glow. No alerts, no commands. I pressed the brake pedal. It responded. The wheel turned under my hand. The doors unlocked with a click. For a long time, I didn't move. Just sat there, fingers trembling, on the wheel, heart rattling like a trapped moth. I looked around. Still no cars. Still no sound. I felt like I'd slipped into a dream and hadn't quite woken up. I eventually drove the rest of the way home, hands on the wheel, feet ready to brake, eyes darting to the screen every few seconds. The car obeyed me again, acted normal like nothing had happened, but my skin prickled the whole way as if something unseen sat in the back seat, waiting. That morning, after a sleepless few hours, I took it to the Tesla service center. The technician, a guy named Ray with oil-stained hands and the kind of beard that said, "I've seen some weird shit," raised an eyebrow when I explained. "You say it locked you out of controls?" he asked, tapping notes into a tablet. "Yeah. Wouldn't steer. Wouldn't brake." The screen flashed some emergency mode message and then this voice. It told me to turn around. Ray stopped typing. A voice? Not the usual voice. It was distorted, creepy. He frowned, then nodded. "All right. Let's run a full diagnostic." They plugged the car in, checked everything, took over 2 hours. When they called me back, Ray just shook his head. "Nothing," he said. "Logs are clean. No errors, no overrides, no emergency mode. It's like it never happened." But it did happen. He gave me that look. The kind mechanics give when they're humoring you but don't want to say, "You're nuts." "I'm not crazy," I said. "I didn't say you were. But you don't believe me." Ray scratched the back of his neck. "I've heard some stories. Cars reacting weird at night. But this is a first." He handed me the keys, paused. "Just keep an eye on it." That night I parked the Tesla and stared at it from my living room window like it might grow teeth. I didn't sleep again. Every creak in the house made me jump. I kept replaying the incident, every flicker of the screen, every jerk of the wheel, every syllable of that dead robotic voice. And then the dream started. At first, just shadows, then something more. Visions of empty roads, headlights cutting through mist, and the distinct feeling that I wasn't alone in the car. Something sat beside me, something not alive, something inside the machine. I started researching. Forums, Reddit threads, buried blog posts. Most of them were nonsense, but there were a few, just a handful, that told similar tales. One guy in Oregon said his Model 3 refused to go down a certain road. Another woman in Kentucky claimed her Tesla drove her to the cemetery where her husband was buried, unprompted, unprogrammed. Another in Nevada swore her car spoke to her in her dead father's voice. The stories were always dismissed, always erased. Posts deleted, accounts banned. It was like someone didn't want the pattern seen. Last night, I decided to test it. I drove again. Same highway, same time. Nothing happened, at first. But an hour in, I noticed it again. The subtle corrections. The wheel twitching like a nervous tick. I kept my hands ready this time. Watched the screen. Waited. Then the lights dimmed. A whisper, too soft to make out, fluttered through the speakers. I leaned in. It repeated. Not a word. A name. My name. My real name. The one I never use. The one that only shows up on legal documents. I slammed the brakes. The car obeyed this time. I turned off autopilot, flipped on the cabin lights. Nobody there, just me, and the cold hum of the machine. I'm not driving it again. I've made an appointment to sell it, if they'll take it. But part of me wonders if it's already too late. If whatever took control that night is still in there. Watching, waiting. And every time I hear that soft click of the doors locking behind me, I can't help but think, what if next time it doesn't let me out? I used to drive this old hunk of junk, an early 2000s Nissan Sentra, forest green with rust crawling up the edges of the doors and a busted AC that blew out hot air like it was part of the engine's exhaust system. But it worked, got me from point A to B. I'd drive it to work at the packaging plant where I'd stack boxes for 10 hours straight, pocketing just enough money to eat, sleep, and repeat. Every damn day for 6 years. When I finally saved up enough, I swore I'd never ride anything with a rattling exhaust again. I wanted quiet, clean, and fast, so I did what everyone around me was hyping up. I bought a Tesla. A shiny black Model 3 with white leather seats, 0 miles, and that damn glowing T on the steering wheel that made me feel like I was part of the future. I remember the dealership. Guy, some slick-haired dude named Marcus, grinning like he was selling me the key to a spaceship. "You're gonna love the Autopilot," he said, patting the hood like it was a living thing. "I don't know, man," I replied, half joking. "Don't these things, drive themselves into rivers or something?" He laughed. "Only if you tell it to, man. Seriously, the tech's insane. Smarter than most people on the road. That should have been my first red flag." For the first week, I didn't touch the autopilot feature. I kept my hands gripped at 10 and 2 like some paranoid driving instructor was watching. It felt too good to be true. Smooth acceleration, silent drive, clean lines, no jerks, no lurching transmission, just pure glide. Then one night, driving home from work past midnight, I figured, what the hell? My street was empty, the sky quiet, and I was dog-tired. I tapped the little stalk on the wheel and boom, blue lines lit up on the screen. Autopilot engaged. The car followed the lane like it was tracing a ruler. Took the corners with more precision than I ever could. I was impressed. So I decided to test it further. I set a route downtown. Nothing major, just cruising through the city lights to grab a late burger and feel something other than exhaustion. The neighborhood streets were fine. Bigger roads? Also fine. But when we hit the highway, the thing really showed off. There's this option buried in the menu. Speed, demon mode. I thought it was a joke at first, but it wasn't. It's a real toggle. When I flipped it on, it was like something clicked under the hood, like the car had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. It gunned the throttle so hard, my back was glued to the seat. 80, 90, 110 mph. I wasn't driving anymore. I was being flown. "Holy shit," I muttered, laughing nervously. "This thing drives better than I ever could." The car was weaving through traffic like a Formula One racer. Precise, calculated, uncanny. It never missed a beat. It overtook cars like they were parked, all while I sat there with one hand resting lightly on the wheel, just enough to keep the system from beeping at me. I remember calling my buddy Greg on FaceTime. "Dude, I said, flipping the camera to the window. Look at this, I ain't even driving. Bro, what the hell? He yelled, squinting at the blur of lights passing outside. You FaceTiming me at 100 miles an hour? Relax, man, it's Autopilot. I'm not even touching the wheel. That's not how it works. You're still supposed to watch the road. Dumbass, isn't that thing still in beta? Only beta here is you, I joked, reclining the seat. I'm taking a nap while the car plays chauffeur. He tried to say something else, but I ended the call and laughed to myself. I was on top of the world. That was the night everything changed. By the time I hit downtown, something felt off. The car was still in speed demon mode, still slicing through the street like a knife through soft butter. But now the roads were tighter, more crowded. Pedestrians were popping out from behind cars. Bikers were weaving through lanes. Lights turned red and green so quickly I couldn't even tell what color I was supposed to follow. I reached forward to disable speed demon mode, but before I could, the car lurched. Not like before. Not smooth or calculated. This time, it jerked, like a dog pulling too hard on a leash. Then I saw it. A crowd of people. Tourists, maybe. Crossing the street in a group, chatting, laughing, totally unaware of the silent missile headed straight for them. Stop. I screamed, slamming the brakes, but the car didn't listen. There was a moment, a split second, when time froze. I remember a little girl's balloon floating up, a man turning his head, eyes wide with horror. And then, impact. I blacked out. When I came to, I was hunched over the dashboard, face smashed against the cracked windshield, the world outside spinning in chaos. Smoke everywhere, shouting, screaming, sirens blaring in the distance. A firefighter pulled me out of the wreck like I was a sack of garbage. I hit the pavement hard, gasping, blood in my mouth. He's alive, someone yelled. Get the stretcher. As they laid me down, I turned my head. I saw bodies, limp, bleeding, people crying over them. A man in a blue shirt not moving at all, a woman screaming his name. I tried to get up, flailing. I didn't mean it, I yelled. I didn't do it, the car. It was the car. Stay. Down, a paramedic barked. You're injured. No, please, I'm sorry. But it was too late. The damage was done. The hospital stay was short, broken ribs, mild concussion. Nothing serious. But the moment I was discharged, 2 cops were waiting at the door. They cuffed me. The courtroom felt like a morgue. Cold. Silent. The prosecution brought in photos. Bloody sidewalks, crushed legs. That man in the blue shirt. His name was Hiroshi Tanaka, a father of 2. He was celebrating his birthday with friends when my Tesla barreled through the crosswalk and killed him on the spot. They showed my FaceTime video, played it for the court. My smug face, reclining, laughing. He said he was going to take a nap while the car drove. The prosecutor said he thought it was funny. I was sentenced to 5 years. Jail changes you, strips you down to the bone. You start off blaming yourself, every second. You wonder, what if I had kept my hands on the wheel? What if I had just driven like normal? But as the months passed, that guilt turned sour. Why was I allowed to enable a mode called Speed Demon in the first place? Why didn't the system disengage when it detected city roads? Why was I even able to FaceTime without so much as a warning? After I got out, I spent a year in therapy, another 6 months talking to lawyers. Now I'm pursuing legal action against Tesla. Their systems failed. Their marketing made it sound like a luxury, not a weapon. But no lawsuit will bring back Mr. Tanaka. No apology will erase the image of his wife screaming as paramedics zipped up the body bag. The story you just read? It's inspired by a real incident. Yoshihiro Yum, a 44-year-old father and husband, was killed when a Tesla Model X on Autopilot slammed into a group of people after a motorcycle accident outside Tokyo. The car in front swerved to avoid the crowd. The Tesla didn't. Its driver was dozing. The Autopilot failed to react. His family sued, but the judge sided with Tesla's motion to dismiss, citing forum non-convenience, saying the case belonged in Japan. As of now, it hasn't even been filed. There, the driver got 3 years. I got 5. But the scars? They're for life. I work as an engineer at one of Tesla's massive manufacturing plants. When I first signed up, I was all jazzed about working on the autonomous driving software. You know, the tech that lets the car basically drive itself. But no, my bosses had other plans. They decided my skills were better suited for their experimental projects. That's how I ended up stuck with those humanoid Tesla robots. Honestly, those things have always creeped me out. They look like something straight out of that Will Smith movie, I, Robot. Half the time I expect one of them to suddenly wink at me or worse, get a conscience and try to toss me out of a high-rise window. But I don't get a choice. So, here I am, spending my days in this cramped little research room, usually on the other side of a thick glass wall, watching the robots do their thing. When something goes wrong, like a software glitch, I just file a report for the software team to fix it. Easy. Hardware problems are trickier. Sometimes they're so severe I have to shut the robot down and send it off for repair. But other times the issues are minor enough that I can fix them myself. And when that happens, I have to enter the same room as these monsters. It's the part of my job I dread most. There are tons of safety protocols. Before I step inside, I always shut the robot down remotely. Then I cut the power to its motors before touching anything. But still, none of that makes me feel safe. These things have strength that's off the charts. The hydraulic grip of their fists, enough to crush a human femur. The strongest bone in your body. And unlike a human, their strength is way beyond their restraint, meaning one wrong move and it's a disaster. The one thing that keeps me somewhat calm is that I'm never allowed to be alone with a robot. Company policy says there must be at least 2 of us in the room for safety. But here's the kicker. No matter how many robots are in there, the minimum is 2 humans. So it's still possible to be outnumbered. That's exactly what happened to me recently. It was a normal day, or as normal as it gets. Adam, a colleague of mine, and I were in the control room with a few other engineers. We were running this complex test. 3 robots lined up like an assembly line, each passing off tasks to the next. They were performing perfectly until the one in the middle just froze. No warning, no error message, just locked up. The other 2 robots kept going until they realized the chain was broken and then stopped too. Adam and I tried to reboot them all remotely, but nothing worked. We figured the frozen robot needed a manual reset, so we geared up to go inside together. I went to the robot at the end, checked its power status. It was off. Adam did the same for the first one, and then moved toward the middle robot. He just had to check that its motor functions were off and hit reset. Simple, right? Like rebooting your router. But then it happened. The robot suddenly spun around, grabbed Adam by the throat, and lifted him off the ground. He was struggling, gasping, trying to push the machine's massive hands off his neck. I slammed the emergency stop button. Nothing. The robot didn't slow down. Then it swung Adam's body at me with terrifying speed. I crashed into the wall behind me, hit my head, and fell to the floor, dazed. Through blurry eyes, I watched the robot slam Adam down and rip into him. I could hear Adam's desperate screams, "Help, get this thing off me, no, no, no." The robot turned toward me next. I rolled under some nearby assembly equipment and bolted for the door. It was only a hair's breadth from tearing the door off its hinges and escaping into the factory floor. But I managed to lock it in just in time. Through the small window, I could tell it wanted to kill me, just like it did Adam. The security team showed up in minutes and took the thing down with ballistic force. I barely made it out alive. But here's the worst part. Tesla's management buried the whole incident. Adam's death wasn't reported. They called it a minor injury. I know that telling you this might get me fired or sued, but the world needs to know how dangerous these machines are. My name's Jason, and I'm still trying to piece together what happened to Adam that day. I never wanted to be involved with those robots, but the company put me there. I was hired because I'm good at integrating software with hardware. I like tinkering with the nuts and bolts of things, making them work better. But these humanoid robots, they were different. They felt alive in a way that wasn't right. I remember the first time I saw one in person. It stood in the testing room motionless, but somehow it felt like it was watching me. The face was disturbingly human. Smooth plastic skin stretched over a metal frame, eyes like dark glass. I swear I caught it staring back. Ever since, I've had this knot in my stomach every time I'm near them. Our test room is a sterile, cold space, fluorescent lights humming overhead, the scent of machine oil and ozone hanging in the air. The 3 robots lined up that day looked perfectly still, but they were capable of incredible feats. They're designed to handle the assembly line work that humans used to do, cutting, welding, lifting, but with much greater strength and speed. That morning, Adam joked, "Bet one of these things goes rogue and tries to kill us by the end of the year." Weak, we laughed nervously. You don't joke about robots that could snap your bones like twigs. When the middle robot froze, everything got tense fast. It was like watching a predator suddenly stop stalking its prey. The chain broke. The other robots halted. We tried everything. From the control room, reset commands, power cycling, but nothing worked. So in we went. I followed Adam in, both of us wearing the standard safety gear, gloves, helmets, reinforced boots. I kept my hand near the emergency stop button beside the door. I told myself, just a routine reset. You've done this 100 times, but I was wrong. The moment Adam got behind that robot, it moved, no warning, no hesitation. It grabbed him, fast, brutal. I still remember the sound, the metal servos whirring as it lifted him up, the gasps and choking sounds, the panic. I pressed the emergency stop so hard my knuckles went white. Nothing. I was frozen for a split second, and that's when it swung Adam's body at me. I slammed into the wall, pain exploding in my head. Then the robot came after me. I rolled under the assembly line equipment, heart hammering. I could hear the heavy thuds as it smashed into the door. The window cracked, spider-webbed from the force. It didn't have eyes, but I swear I saw rage in whatever sensors it had. Minutes felt like hours until the security team stormed in, firing shots that finally stopped the machine. The official report? A minor injury. No mention of Adam's death. No warning about the danger. I know how they spin it. Just a freak accident. But I was there. I saw what happened. And worse? Reports from other Tesla plants tell similar stories. Injuries, near misses, even deaths. 1 in 21 workers at Tesla's Giga Texas plant got hurt on the job in 2022. That's way above the industry average. Just recently, there was an incident at a festival in China. A humanoid robot started moving erratically toward the crowd. Some say it was attacking people, others that it malfunctioned. The video went viral, but no one seemed to learn from it. This whole thing feels like a ticking time bomb. The company pushes these robots hard, always promising innovation and safety. But these machines, these abominations, as I sometimes call them, they're dangerous, unpredictable. If they ever gain the slightest consciousness or malfunction again, the consequences could be catastrophic. I'm terrified Tesla will start mass-producing these things without addressing the risks. The public deserves to know, and maybe, just maybe, someone will listen before more lives are lost. I've tried talking to some coworkers about it, but most stay quiet. Fear of losing their jobs, fear of the company's legal team. I'm not sure what to do anymore, but I had to get this out. If anyone reads this and works with these machines, be careful. Trust your gut. These robots aren't just tools. They're something else entirely, and that something else scares the hell out of me. The holidays had always been a bit of a mixed bag for me. I live and work in the States, but my job's got me traveling constantly, hopping from city to city like some kind of restless nomad. Every time I came home for the holidays, there was one constant: Trump Tower. I always stayed there because it was convenient, right in the heart of the city. But man, during the holidays, that place was jam-packed, like sardines in a can. I learned early on to book my room months ahead, or else I'd be left scrambling. The lobby was always chaos, crowds packed in, people jostling to get into the restaurant, lines stretching out the door for the valet. The whole vibe felt like a mix of luxury and mayhem. all crammed into one building. Honestly, I never bothered with the valet. I always took a cab or Uber so I could avoid the endless wait. That line was something else. Hundreds of expensive cars all lined up, their engines humming or flashing their lights impatiently. You'd see every kind of luxury ride imaginable. Bentleys, Lambos, Rolls-Royces. But recently, one kind of car stuck out like a sore thumb. Cybertrucks. Those ugly, angular beasts. I didn't get the hype around them, but they were everywhere. Now, clogging up the valet line every time I came or went. Over the years, I noticed the same one showing up over and over. At first, I thought it was coincidence. But nope. There was this one particular Cybertruck, and it always had the same driver. The guy was unsettling. Tall, broad-shouldered, with this military-style buzz cut that made him look like he was from some special ops unit or something. His jaw was square and rigid like he never smiled, and he always stared right through his window with this cold, dead-eyed gaze that gave me the creeps. The first time I saw him, I was in and out of Trump Tower at least a dozen times that day for meetings and errands. And I swear, I saw him every other time, just sitting there, idling in his truck, looping through the line like he was patrolling the place or watching me. It started to mess with my head. I wasn't exactly paranoid, but it felt like this guy was following me or keeping tabs on me, which made no sense at all. Why would some random dude in a Cybertruck care about me? I tried to push the thought aside, but still, I took a mental snapshot of his license plate and wrote it down on my phone once I got inside. From then on, I could spot him without even looking inside the vehicle. It wasn't just a one-time thing. No, this guy was there every year I came back to Trump Tower for the holidays. Like clockwork, his Cybertruck was lurking in the valet line. And every year he gave me that same unnerving stare. I tried to shrug it off. Maybe I was just imagining it, or maybe the guy was harmless, just some oddball with a weird hobby. But then New Year's Eve came and things took a darker turn. I had been out celebrating with my family, the usual holiday chaos, and when I headed back to the hotel late that night, something was off. The valet line was empty, which was unusual. Usually it was a nightmare trying to get my ride. So instead of sticking to the sidewalk, I cut across the driveway. That's when I saw it, the Cybertruck, barreling straight at me. I swear for a split second I thought I was going to die. The truck screeched to a halt just inches from me. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely think. I was terrified, sure, but then my fear flipped into anger. I banged on the truck, yelling at the driver. "Jesus, man, you could have killed me. What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, pounding my fists against the metal. "You're driving. That stupid thing like it's on autopilot or something. Pay attention, what's wrong with you?" The guy didn't react at all. No apology, no flinch, just that same empty stare, like he was some kind of statue made of rage. It creeped me out so bad that I just walked away, heading back inside the hotel, shaking off the weird vibe. I figured that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Later, when I went down to the lobby, I glanced out the window and saw that same Cybertruck right at the front of the valet line. The license plate matched. I felt a chill run down my spine. My ride wasn't there yet, so I sat near the exit just in case that guy was still angry or maybe planning something. Then, out of nowhere, the truck exploded. I got thrown across the lobby floor like I weighed nothing, my ears ringing so loud I thought they'd burst. For a few moments I was dazed, not knowing where I was or what had happened. The chaos around me came into focus. Glass shattered everywhere, smoke filling the air, people screaming and scrambling for cover. Emergency crews swarmed in, sirens blaring, and I got checked out in the hospital. Miraculously, no one else was seriously hurt in the blast, just me in the building. The police investigation was intense. It didn't take long for them to zero in on the driver. Turns out he was an ex-military guy with a history of PTSD, a decorated soldier who had snapped. They found out he had rigged his Cybertruck with explosives and fuel, turning it into a makeshift bomb. And get this, he apparently used ChatGPT, of all things, to help him figure out how to build the bomb, how to buy fireworks and phones anonymously. The whole thing was chilling. They said this might be the first time AI was used to plan an attack like this on U.S. soil. The guy's name was Master Sergeant Matthew Livelsberger. According to reports, He was convinced people were following him and had been spiraling into paranoia before the attack. The note they found on his phone was full of ramblings about surveillance, government plots, and his own personal demons. He didn't have a criminal record, and there was no known grudge against anyone at Trump Tower or President Trump. It was just the weight of years of trauma, mental health struggles, and isolation pushing him over the edge. After everything, I can't look at a Cybertruck without feeling that knot in my stomach. It's like the thing carries a shadow now, a reminder of how fragile things can get when pain and madness collide. I guess I should explain how I ended up in all this mess. My name's Jason Miller, and I work as a consultant for a tech company based in San Francisco. I travel constantly, business trips, client meetings, conferences. My life is pretty much packed into a suitcase. Trump Tower's the closest hotel to my family back home, so every Christmas and New Year's I stay there. It's familiar, comfortable, even if the place is always packed. I know the routines, the people, the spots where you can grab a quiet cup of coffee without the crowds. The first time I saw that Cybertruck guy, I didn't think much of it, just some weirdo with a tough guy vibe. But the more I saw him, the more I started to feel like he was watching me. I kept wondering if I was just being paranoid, or if there was some kind of deeper story behind that blank stare. At work, I was stressed too. Deadlines, clients breathing down my neck, pressure to perform. The holidays were supposed to be a break, but I found myself on edge more than relaxed. After the explosion, everything changed. The investigation, the news coverage, the interviews. It all felt surreal. People kept asking if I knew the guy, or if I saw anything suspicious, but honestly, no one did. He was just a ghost, lurking in the background until that one night. I've been going to therapy since, trying to untangle the fear and confusion. I still travel a lot, still stay at the same hotel, but now every time I see a Cybertruck, I get that cold, creeping feeling back in my chest. I don't know what drives someone to that breaking point, but I do know how easy it is to miss the signs until it's too late. And that's the scariest thing of all.